All right, we're gonna call the Tuesday, July 28th meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority to order. You all received the minutes from the July 14th meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, or changes? Hearing none, the minutes stand approved as printed. Number 2, approve the airport vouchers totaling $23,744.27.
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the approval of the airport vouchers totaling $23,744.27. Roll call vote.
Haugen.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. And by the way, Joan, I echo. You do a great job on the minutes. Oh my gosh.
I think everybody can hear us, right? Stacy,
you guys hear us?
Give us a thumbs up. Can you hear us? Okay.
Okay. Let's go to approve the individual vouchers as follows. Northern Plains Mechanical, $82,467. Rickard Electric, $25,705. Any questions or discussion?
No, motion to approve both 3A and B.
Okay.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 3A and B. Roll call vote.
Haugen.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Receive the update from the City of Barbo Engineering Department regarding the proposed Northside Flood Risk Management Levy.
Okay, Roger Cluck is here from the City of Fargo Engineering Department, and wherever you'd like to be, so we can get you on camera or wherever, so.
I'll probably stand back here. We are closing in on a design project. We have in front of you our final layout for the levee. Our goal is to take it, advertise, and take the bid in early September. The work this fall will primarily be on Drain 10. We're putting a major structure and pump station in the drain to manage, the water coming from the south and to keep the water from the north from coming back south. And so we have to, because of the drainage ditch, we have to overfill the ditch for about 6-7 months so it'll pre-settle, and then start actually construction on that structure in July of next year. We, depending on the fall, there may be a little bit of levee work that goes on. I expect there will be some dirt being hauled in, and some other things. But primarily, this fall will be to get the pre-loading done. The only thing that's changed since I was last here is up in the northwest corner. We were originally going to go across the County Road 81, the railroad right-of-way and the DOT right-of-way. And because of the railroad requirements and DOT requirements next to the interstate, we couldn't get our levee to the height that we wanted to. And we would have, we'd have had some levee in there, but it wouldn't have been flood protection. So we kind of went back to the drawing board, and we were able to actually go south along the west side of the old Harwood Lagoons and tie into Highway 81 to get the height that we need, so that once we're done, we've got the protection on the north side. So that's really the only change from what you saw before. I know we've given Sean the appraisals and that information, but at least with the project, if you have any questions you need before you get into that discussion, I'd be glad to try to address any of those type of questions.
And is it clear to everyone where this is? If we look up on the larger map, we kind of overlay this up here. So here's the Stockman addition right here. The area that we lease to the Park District and Fargo Public Schools is up here. So basically in this general area, there's the lagoons. That's basically where the project is. And they've been working with our tenant farmers as well. So Brandon Olson was out. They wanted, the city had proposed taking out an approach, and Brandon has been working with them on where to get farm implements into the farmland up here. The Beatons, Scott and Matt Beaton, we're trying to coordinate a schedule to meet out there. They're going to be, none of our crop up here was put in this year. that's on the preventative plant program because they took the corn out earlier this year. So they're gonna do a bunch of ditching out here, and they're gonna try and coordinate with Roger on exactly where to bring in their drainage, so it doesn't, the levee doesn't impact their ability to drain that acreage up there, so that's in general where it is, but.
One thing I may add, over on the east side that Sean mentioned, where the park and school land is, we moved our levee south so it wouldn't impact the that park path, those areas. So we're just immediately south of that land. And then along 52nd, we're actually on the north side of 52nd. And that was a recommendation from the FAA. Because if we were south of 52nd, then we'd have to go through the long environmental process because that land had FAA funds in it, whereas the land to the north had just airport funds in it. So it was a way to move up the timeline of the project probably a year to 2 years. And one of the things that we're very interested in moving this along is we're seeing more development north of County Road 20. It's an area that is at risk. We do have city infrastructure up there, obviously airport infrastructure, and this will provide protections to the north side of town because of that, and allow that land to continue to develop.
So as Roger said, they did work with the FAA for an extended period of time, probably a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Yep.
The FAA then finally, based on where we moved the levee, or the city moved the levee off of property that was purchased with federal funds, we did a, what was it called, a Title 531, or there was some
Special
FAA
title.
process, then the FAA kind of released it to move forward. And as far as I know, I've sent them all the information. I don't think they have any further review of that other than they may want to look at the appraisals. The appraisals that you received in your packet are just the first 5 or 6 pages of 100 and, I don't know, they were 145, 180 some page long appraisals, each one of them. Rose Hayes put those together, who's done a lot of appraisals for us. So the appraisal report, if you want the full appraisal report, I can try and email it to you. They're long, they're big files, but if you want it, I can get it to you. But they're all really redundant in terms of the historical and everything that they go through, but then you get into the meat of how they do the comparisons if you want to see that. This information was provided to Stacy, and Stacy is on there with the temporary and permanent easements, the temporary being the construction easement plus the permanent easements, which tie into how the appraisal report comes together, and then the memorandum of offer to the landowner for $166,981 for that work. So that's kind of where we're at. What questions do you have of, I guess, Roger or the team? I think there's some others from the city that might be on there. If there's any questions.
You know, first, this is a perfect example how the city and the airport authority, you guys have really done a great job collaborating for years on this. So I think it's wonderful, and it's so detailed. So
There's a lot of moving parts because
Yeah.
we're working with, Sean has been very helpful. We actually had to go in a snowstorm to meet with the FAA in Bismarck. But it finally, we were able to do that by meeting them face to face and saying, what can we do?
that's great.
And they've guided us very well on the route to go. And
Good.
we've been meeting with the township. We'll be meeting with the county highway department.
Mhm.
When we were going across the railroad, meeting with the railroad, the DOT.
The same process is underway with North University Drive, which has been a long battle. That's a whole separate project. North University is another, but the FAA is heavily involved in that.
Okay.
But
Any
yeah.
questions? Yes.
Roger, would you look at drain 10 on the diagram here? I'm just wondering, are you going to have some sort of a gate system there? Or what are you going to do for a levee there that you would still allow drain 10 to function, but yet the levee stops back full of water? I don't know.
Yeah, they're actually, if you're looking at the drain footprint, there is a large structure which is a gatehouse. It's actually within the drain itself, so that the gates throughout the summer season after spring runoff will be open. And so that'll flow normally.
Okay.
And then late in the fall, just before winter, we actually close the gates and we go into a full pump situation. And they're going to have 3 pumps within that.
There's a flood control structure here that the airport and city partnered on after the June 2000 flood. If you remember that one? Is that one going to be eliminated? Or
Yes.
So this structure will come out completely, that'll be an open, free-flowing drain then?
Well, the structure will stay. We're going to remove the gates and the pumps and that. But should it ever be needed in the future, the concrete structure would be there.
Okay, all right.
The drain itself would free flow.
So your free flow all the way up to where the new structure will be. It's just going to relocate it further north.
Yeah, so when we ditch the farmland, that still has a road to cross. Would that just go north then?
I think the natural drainage, I guess I'll have to talk to the Beatons and maybe
Yeah.
Roger. I'm not exactly sure what their plan is to drain that, but they've got all the topo maps out there, so they know the elevations of the field. And there were a number of established ditches out there from the previous tenant and owner, the Gill family and the Harris family, that they're gonna probably clean those ditches out.
That goes up to 9, to drain 9, right up in the northeast or northwest corner there. I'm just
I'm not sure.
trying to,
Yeah, I know we have some drainage along, field drainage and road drainage along 52nd that we're picking up and actually dropping in on the upstream side of our structure. So when say if you're standing in the drain looking northeast, you would see 2 large gates and 1 small gate. And that's for allowing the water to go through. And then when the gates are closed, then the water will go to your left or to the northwest into a pump station. This will be as one of our largest pump stations in the city, at least as big, maybe possibly bigger than the one that's next to City Hall. So these are going to be very large pumps. So during the winter, it'll be in a pump situation through spring flood, and once it melts, then we reopen the gates and let the water through. The reason we close the gates in the fall before freeze up is because in the past we've tried to close them just ahead of the event, and we run into icing problems and difficulty getting it sealed. So now we seal them when it's still warm, and then it also allows the pumps to get some run time during the winter.
okay, thank you.
And also with that, if I may, we had to do, because of the amount of levy that we're building, we also did an engineering analysis on the rise in water because of those levees, and we meet the state water commission requirements, which is less than a half a foot, so we're not affecting the neighboring land to the north because of our levees by more than a half a foot. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question about the neighborhood, but I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Okay.
So what you would be approving today would be the temporary construction easement and the permanent easement, and then separately the memorandum of offer to landowner, if you concur with the values that Rose put in the appraisal. And Stacy, you didn't have any concerns with either of the easements? And she's trying to get off mute there.
Sorry about that. I went through each of them and everything looks to be in order. The usual entry about returning things to what they were in the beginning is all there, so I can easily sign off on those.
Okay, so I'll entertain 2 motions. One is for the temporary and construction appraisal reports, right?
Temporary construction easement
Construction
and permanent
permanent
easements.
easement.
Those
Okay,
two.
so the temporary and permanent easements.
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary and permanent easements.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the temporary and permanent construction easements. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, motion carried. The next is to approve the memorandum of offer to the landowner. And I'll entertain a motion for that. Hopefully you all saw that, the total for all of them. Any questions about those, the appraisals or the recommendation?
So it's 166,981.
Yep,
Okay. And the
Yep.
landowner is the airport authority.
correct,
And who is paying for this? Is the city is paying for this?
the city,
Madam Chairman,
yes.
have the tenants with any subjective leases been afforded any alteration to the leases? Or any changes to it such that it accommodates them?
Yeah, the acreages were reduced earlier this year in anticipation of the project beginning this year, and then they came back and readjusted because the project didn't happen, but their cash rent would be adjusted. I need to go out to the Farm Service Agency and adjust the tillable acreage,
Okay.
and then also adjust the tillable acreage with the county and the city on the property taxes as well. So that'll all be done here over the next couple of months.
Right.
Great question. Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the memorandum of offer to the landowner. We are the landowner. It will be sold to the city of Barbo. Voice vote? Is that correct?
It would be just an easement, that's.
An easement, I'm sorry, an easement to the city of
Yeah,
Barbo.
we still own the property.
Yeah. Voice vote?
Haugen?
Aye.
Engen?
Aye.
Cosner?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, good job. All right, 5, receive the 2021-23 Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Goal approved by the FAA.
Okay, so attached is the goal. We do this in conjunction with the North Dakota Aeronautics Commission. Adam Dillon helps us with the Part 26, which is FAA assisted contracts. I do the Part 23, which is concessionaire disadvantaged business enterprise. So the goal, 4.02%, is really based off the North Dakota DOT goal statewide. So you see a number of airports and other agencies that will have the same goal within the state. So once you approve this or concur with it, then we put in a public notice in the newspaper, put it on the website, and let everyone who is interested in this information know what the goal is for that next 3-year period.
Does anybody want Sean to share any background on the DBE? Yeah.
I probably would, and I have a question on, I understand how they got to the median, but with all the construction we have going on, I'm surprised we don't get more minority contractors. For instance, in 19, we had 0.
We do as well. So any FAA assisted contract that we do, we require all of the bidders to do a good faith effort in terms of contacting disadvantaged business enterprises for any portion of the contract that they could fulfill, whether it's seating, it's hauling, if it's electrical supplies, anything that they can do. And these contractors have to document in their bid proposal what efforts they took, who they called, what response did they get, whether there was one or wasn't one. Sometimes the DBEs might only have 2 trucks for hauling, or they may be already contracted with someone else and they can't. So we unfortunately don't have enough disadvantaged business enterprises in our area to fulfill all of the heavy construction that takes place around the area. And this has gone on for a number of years. As the DB liaison, what we do is we work with the state and even our concessionaires in the Part 23. So like the car rental agencies, the parking lot, the restaurant, the gift shop, all of our concessionaires, to encourage them to purchase from disadvantaged business enterprises. Now, our gift shop has a number of minority-owned and or women-owned businesses that they buy supplies from, but none of them want to go through the DOT process to become certified. And we have other DBEs around the country that our car rental agencies do business with that are certified in some states, but they won't get certified in North Dakota. And I've talked with some of them, but they don't want to go through the process. The ones in North Dakota, you take Dot's Pretzels or you take some of the barbecue sauces or other things, they just don't want to go through because they divulge too much personal information. They're happy with what they're doing. They don't want to become certified. We can only use businesses that are certified by the North Dakota Department of Transportation. Now, we've had some situations where the car rental agencies will have a business certified in Colorado or New Mexico or even Texas. We can't count them, even though they are in other airports that they do business with, but we can't count them here until they become North Dakota DOT certified. And we work with the FAA, that's Nancy Civic, who approved this thing here. They're well aware.
And this is going to ask you to go back a ways here. In 2011,
Yeah.
our highest percentage was almost 25%. I was just wondering, do you remember what we were doing in 2011 to hit that high versus 19 when we got a zero?
I don't, if Jeff Klein's on, he might recall, or John Scraper, I don't know what 2011 would have been. It would have been after the terminal. I don't know what project we had back then.
Okay.
Probably something out on the airfield, where maybe there was a hauling and or some supplies.
I know that we have, like this year, Northern Improvement in huge contracts, but, you know, they don't
Yeah, it's
sub
gonna be
out to anybody.
It'll be a smaller percentage. I mean, it's, all we can do is try and encourage those that are in that situation that qualify to become certified by the DOT. And then once they do become certified, they still have to provide a competitive price and bid to the contractors that are soliciting their participation, so.
You know, is that the DOT, is it a real onerous, a large amount of paperwork? Or
I
is it
don't
just-
think it is. I think it's
more
the
the
amount
privacy?
of private, of personal information they have to divulge to become certified. I think that's what the holdback is. If you recall, a few years ago when Danny Ness, or no, Danny Arnold, that Bernie's daughter, was looking at a valet service. And we even looked at her to become certified as a woman-owned business for budget rent-a-car. But once they looked at what they had to fill out, it's like, I'm not divulging that information.
Yeah.
So they chose not to. That's been a few years ago.
Okay.
So, but,
Any good discussion? Any other questions or comments?
just a roll call vote would be fine.
Okay. Would someone like to make the motion
So
to
moved.
receive? Who said it? Okay. Who did the motion?
General Haugen.
General Haugen, okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the 2021-23 Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Goal. Approved by the FAA, roll call vote.
Hogan?
Aye.
Mangan?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Lind? Lind.
Aye, thank you. All right, receive construction services agreement from Mead and Hunt for car rental ready lot reconstruction.
Okay, John Scraper, I see that you're on there from Mead and Hunt. This is a contract, maximum cost of service $78,151 for the car rental ready lot that is under reconstruction right now, and we just got the construction services amount. So we already paid for the design. Now this is the next phase of their contract.
Would anybody like to have any questions, or do you want it explained?
Yes, please.
Okay, John, why don't you go ahead and go over this, okay?
Sure. This is the contract for our on-site representation. We have an engineer on site right now, Kylie Cutler. This also covers all the material testing, and it's hourly, not to exceed. So hopefully we come in under this budget amount and get the project done early.
So the scope of services, construction, staking, all of these are listed on page 1 if you want a quick review. Any questions from anyone? Yeah.
John, I don't see anything in here about hitting a gas line. Was that supposed to be in here?
Yeah. We are not in the business of hitting gas lines. That was the contractor. And it sounds like it was a mix-up with the locates. They located on the pavement, and then they tore the pavement out, and then the locates went with it. And it sounds like it didn't get relocated when they took the next scoop of dirt there and hit that gas line.
It was a service line that served the car rental shop over there, and you can see on the pavement edges on the curbs where the lines were, and it just wasn't a perfect line, and the operator didn't see that. But it was a small line. Fargo Fire came out and immediately did I don't know what it was, a big clamp that they threw on there, and it was done.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, and sure enough, I was really impressed how quickly they got it repaired and got everybody back in business.
Good.
Well,
it was under an hour.
I was too, and I, you know, making light of it here a little bit, but no, it was deadly serious and could have
Yeah.
been tragic, and I was happy to see our fire department and the city fire department, and I think XL was here. very
Yes, they
quickly, too,
responded
so
quickly, yeah.
They all
Good.
need,
Yep.
they all need a thank you and an
Yep.
attaboy
For a response.
Response.
That's great. Any questions? Any questions regarding the meet and hunt proposal? Okay. Can I have a motion?
I will move that we accept.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the construction services agreement for Mead and Hunt for car rental, ready lot reconstruction project. Roll call?
Sure.
Roll call vote?
Aye.
Hagan?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Lind?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Number 7, Andy Purr's update.
Stacy? Eric?
Yes, so I see Eric's on, and I guess I can start, and he can fill in the blanks where I may miss something. Eric and I had a follow-up telephone conference with the North Dakota Attorney General, the assistant, whose name escapes me right now. And it was an interesting conversation because we ended up sort of not being on the same page, but I thought we circled back, which is the AG's office is not going to get into the business of an agreement between the city and the airport, the Memorandum of Understanding. But yes, being separate political subdivisions, there can be separate accounts with ND PERS. So that's where we sort of circle back to what does that mean for the airport? What does that mean for the city? And I think where we left off is we should get all 4 parties, meaning myself, Eric, someone from HR, and then perhaps Sean, on a phone call with Mary Jo to have us all hear on one phone call what exactly does that mean.
You know-
Eric, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, I think, Stacy, you got it right, if you can hear me. It was deja vu all over again. Felt like we went right back to October or so when we started down this path. So, yeah, I think that the concern remains just sort of, will ND PERS sort of allow the firefighters to use the public safety without triggering the city firefighters who have their own pension system from having to go in there, and so that's what we need to explore. But I think we can do it together and figure out the answer.
And from my perspective from that phone conference, the answer is yes, that our firefighters can move, and that's not going to trigger the City of Fargo firefighters moving, because they're separate political subdivisions. And in that regard, act independently of each other, regardless of the memorandum, that under North Dakota State Century Code and under the Administrative Code, that triggering event is, the airport authority is a political subdivision.
Quick question.
We'll find out.
Quick question. Have you ever gotten anything in writing from the AG's office?
I've asked the question. I don't believe any such letter will come, but I think at this point, the 2 entities do agree that for purposes of separate accounts, it is allowed by state statute. It's just a matter of what does that mean.
What I'd like to do, because they are negligent in allowing us or giving us what's in writing, as you are having these meetings, I would ask you to make sure you keep a tape of it, a recording of it, because I mean we have to do that. We have to, and it's just, I think just so much has happened that we've got to make sure that we are following the law as they recommend. And if they're not willing to put it in writing, then we need to keep some sort of record of it. What are your thoughts on that?
It can be a little bit stifling to be recording just sort of telephone conversations like the one Stacy's talking about.
So aren't they Zooms?
I understand what you're saying, but where you're having sort of a staff level conversation to sort of explore options, you start recording it, and sometimes it makes people feel stifled, and then they want to get legal counsel involved, and maybe that's fine, but it may not be necessary as well.
Well, aren't you doing Zoom meetings or Teams? Because you can automatically record those. So I guess my point is some of the issues that have come up in the past 20 years are because they haven't had things in writing. And I'm just a person that, from my experience working with the state as a city commissioner, if you don't put it in writing, there is a lot of opportunity for misinterpretation, which that's one of the reasons why I've been really kind of aggressive with making sure we try to get things in writing from the AG's office. And if they're not going to oblige, if they don't have to, that's fine. But then we have to look out for the city as well as the airport authority to make sure we are following the law. Any comments about this, you guys?
It's just extremely frustrating that.
Yeah.
The people who are being hurt are the firefighters.
Yeah. So if you haven't been Zooming, what I would suggest is, possibly take that up on in some of these situations where the AG's office, you don't think they're going to be willing to put it in writing. Because this isn't the only thing that we've asked them to put in writing. So we understand our responsibilities as an airport authority and the responsibilities. Like this has, it came up that they told you one thing, that the city firefighters would have to be an go if we did, and now they're saying another thing. So they've changed their minds. Or is it our interpretation? That's why I really just feel real strongly we need to have some sort of trail of information and make sure that we're all abiding by it. I'm a rule follower, a law follower, so. Any other comments from you guys? Stacy?
I'll jump in. Stacey, go ahead, but I'll jump in and just say, those are, I think, excellent comments, and I'll put it this way, I think Stacey and I will certainly endeavor to either, if for some reason recording it gets to be awkwardly uncomfortable, I'd like to preserve the right not to do that, but we'll endeavor to keep a paper trail of the conversations and pin down the progress that we're making. I think we're centering on the problem. I think it's a little hard to understand what the misunderstanding has been, but frankly, it has to do with sort of our rather unique relationship between the city and the airport with this airport employee deal and what it means, and this idea of the airport firefighters sort of being city employees in some respects, but clearly the airport is a separate political subdivision, and sort of their what's the word, their paradigm doesn't fit into their paradigm very well, and so I think that's where the awkwardness has come about. But I think we can sort our way through it and figure out whatever the answer ends up being. It very well may be, but Stacey may be right, but it may also be that they say, listen, we just can't accommodate this, and then we'll figure out the best answer some other way.
Well, one of the things in business, if somebody's not going to give, I always do follow-up documents. This is what we discuss. Whenever I've met with the mayor, whenever I meet with business people, if they're not going to do a follow-up, I always do a follow-up. This is what we discussed. And so maybe if they're not going to, maybe we have to be proactive and say, per our discussion today, these are the things that we discussed and these are the outcomes. So, what are your thoughts about that, guys? Am I just being too critical?
Spot on.
Not at all.
Okay.
There are other fire departments throughout the state, and their firefighters have no problem. It is only in Fargo, and it's because of the city's wanting to remain in control of the HR piece of our employees, the municipal airport employees. So it is, again, it's unique just to Fargo because of our relationship with the city. And it appears to me, Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a fear that the fire department moving would then impact the city's fire department. Is that not correct?
Well, yes, it's correct in a sense. I mean, I don't think it's a control issue at all. It really is Andy PERS. The city is perfectly willing to allow the airport firefighters to shift over to the public safety pension. It's just a question is whether Andy PERS, and we thought we got that favorable answer from Dean DePontis in May, Stacy and I did. And then when we initiated the process with Mary Jo from Andy PERS, she sort of regurgitated what had been said in October that started the conversation again, saying, well, gee, you're going to trigger all of the city public safety employees, police and fire need to then go into the Andy PERS public safety. Oh, gee, that's what you said in October. We revisited the conversation with Dean DePontis, and we were both, Stacey and I were kind of mystified as to what the disconnect was between our conversation in May, where he said one thing, and a different conversation in July here, but we couldn't get him sort of off center, and that's where we're at. So we're left with the task that Stacy's talking about, which is to kind of head down the path with Mary Jo and see where it leads us. And maybe that, I mean, what I think is that one will help sort of isolate the issue more in their minds than in Stacy's or my mind as to what the lay of the land is, and then they'll have to decide whether they're going to require that or not. It's simply a question of whether Andy PERS will allow that to happen. It really has nothing to do with the city wanting to control it at all. I think the city's perfectly willing to allow the airport firefighters to shift over to the Andy PERS public safety. But the city firefighters don't want to, I don't think, and that's my understanding, and nor did the Barbo police.
But I think this is why, if we start putting it in writing after, this has been going on since, like you said, last October. And so if I could suggest, if they're not gonna put it in writing, then you do a follow-up in writing, because this has been on the agenda for 9 months. And it's a waste of our time. And they would probably appreciate somebody putting it in writing to take the onus off of them and say, okay, let's move on now. So that's just, that's just my comments, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The city has stated that they're okay with this. Andy PERS, if I'm not misstating, has granted us a separate account, correct? So by doing that, they've already approved us. What are we waiting for? Andy PERS has already granted us an account. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, that's my question.
Well, I
Eric,
think,
what are we waiting for?
he's asking what we're waiting
Yeah.
for, if they've already approved the account. I think personally, what we need to make sure is that they're not gonna change their mind again. And so we've gotta say, this is where we're at, you've granted us the account, this is how we're pursuing this. Because unless it's in writing, again, we'll be back and forth, and they'll say, oh, no, I didn't approve that.
Well, Madam Chair, they've
Yes.
already granted, Andy PERS has granted us an account. Have they rescinded it? No, we have an account with Andy PERS for this purpose. The city says it's okay. This is a payroll or administrative process that is going around in circles, and the only ones being harmed are the Municipal Airport Authority firefighters. If the two parties have already, we have an account with Andy PERS and the city's okay, why aren't we moving forward? What's the disconnect? Stacy, is there a disconnect?
And that's what we need to figure out, and that's why I thought putting a joint Zoom call together where Eric, I am on the call, and then someone from the city administratively, someone from the airport administratively, with Mary Jo, walk us all through it, so we're in the same conversation and can get to the end game answer. That's the best way to find all this out. And my hope was, jumping away from us, is that, and maybe we still can, do that before our next joint city airport meeting.
Again, my question, Andy PERS has established an account for the benefit of municipal airport employees. They have not rescinded it. That account is there to be used for the benefit of those employees. That was ND PER's responsibility to approve or deny it. They've already done that and approved it. I'm confused as to why we're in this stalemate.
I don't disagree with they have approved it. I think the environment back when that happened with the uncertainty of the relationship between the parties was up in the air. And then had to go through the process of developing the memorandum of understanding and getting there. And then the issue comes back up. We have our call and we hear one thing and then we hear another. So I just want to go right to Mary Jo, the person that runs this program, and have her tell us all.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Does the memorandum of understanding specifically exclude this?
Stacy, does a memorandum of understanding specifically exclude this?
It does not, and that's sort of the uniqueness of all of this. Airport employees are city employees for A, B, C, and D, which includes pension, which includes firefighters. But then you have section 13, I believe, that says the two entities agree to discuss each of these issues, including the pension. So the agreement says one thing, but then we agree to discuss whether it would behoove certain airport employees to move to a different pension with the state.
And has it been discussed? Yeah, I think it has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're working through it.
Well,
And I have no problem, and I'm speaking for Eric, but, we can be on this call. He will take his copious amount of notes. I will take mine. We can compare them. And if we want the two entities to uniformly go back to ND PERS and say, this is what we jointly understood from this meeting, and we wanted to put it in writing. Now, we can do separate letters, but I think it's a good idea, Tammy, to do that.
Okay. Are you guys okay with that? Just to confirm it, put it in writing, and then take the next step after that. Rick?
I'm still a bit confused. ND PERS approved an account for the Municipal Airport Authority for the purpose of receiving funds for those members, whether it's any member or the Municipal Airport Authority firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
They've already done that process. So there's a bucket there waiting to receive those funds. If they did not allow it or did not want it, then that account should not be there, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we using it?
Rick, I'll try and give an answer, although I didn't have anything to do with the setting up of the account. I don't really know what that entails. But my understanding is simply this: is that when I think between maybe Sean and or the airport somewhere and HR and the city of Fargo trying to implement that back in October, the pushback came from ND PERS saying, okay, but when you do this, we won't allow this to happen unless there's full participation by all city public safety employees, meaning city firefighters, city police. That's the rub. And so I don't know what it means to have an account, but there's an account. They were open to the idea of opening an account for the airport because, of course, it's its own political subdivision, has its own ID number or whatever that may be. But when it came to actually implementing the pension transition, that's where the rub came.
Yeah, I remember that too. And it seems like, any other comments? Sometimes, I think most of us have been in the business world, and for a small issue like this to take 9 months, I would have been fired. I'm serious, or I would have fired my employee if it could have been done right away. I mean, that's just, again, from a business perspective, I think we just have to be a little bit more, and this involves you, Eric. I mean, the city's paying for you to be involved with this. I just think from the taxpayer dollars, from our airport authority dollars, we could be spending some other valuable time doing some other things. So, again, maybe I'm a bandwagon today. just a little frustrating. Any more comments? Okay. All right, thank you very much. So if I understand right, you are going to put copious notes together from the last, you two are gonna get together, do notes of the last meeting, send it to all the people who were at the meeting, make sure that they understood it the same way, and then you will be setting up another meeting as per your suggestion. Is that correct? Yep, maybe?
Yeah, I think we can put together a joint representation of the history of the situation and present that to Mary Jo. Absolutely.
Okay. 8, receive sponsorship request from the Fargo Air Museum.
I see Ryan Thayer, the new executive director for the Fargo Air Museum, is online there, but this is something that we've supported in the past, the fall event for the Air Museum, and their request isn't out of line with what we've budgeted for these events that they have to promote aviation and the Air Museum. So I'd appreciate your support of their request.
Any comments or questions? This is always a good event.
That's so moved.
Okay. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the sponsorship request for the Fargo Air Museum. Roll call vote.
Hogan?
Aye.
Hagan?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Lind?
Aye.
Lind.
Aye. Thank you. Airport construction and security update.
Terry, do you want to give an update on the snow removal equipment building?
Sure. Am I on?
You are
bet.
Okay. Yeah, so I think things are moving along. If you drive by, you'll see that the north wall of, we have this area that is the sand, build kind of sand storage and salt storage that is on the south side of the building. The block wall is all the way up to the top on the north side, and they're probably 3/4 of the way on the south. So I'm guessing they could be done probably today or tomorrow with that wall. They backfilled, I think they've done the footing for them on the north side, and they just have the foundation wall to complete on the north side. As you remember, we had to dig really deep to get at these tanks, and they were so close to our building after moving things and stuff. So we had to put some engineered fill underneath that, so that's done and moving forward. They're on their way of taking down all the trees that were on the east side of the existing SRE building, and are getting ready to start digging and putting foundations in there. They backfilled the new SRE building now, it looks like almost completely, and then we'll be doing plumbing and stuff, rough ends in that backfill in the floor. So coming along, it sounds like we were supposed to have a tank sometime in late August, and now it sounds like it's going to be here within the next 2 weeks. So either this week or next week, the fuel tank will show up, and then they'll get that installed.
Sounds good. I like that, a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I think they're doing well.
That's great.
You know, I think they got enough done that the rain didn't hurt them too bad. And you know, they don't have a big, a real long way to get off of the asphalt, so it's been going pretty.
Okay. Questions for Terry? Okay, keep up the good work.
Jeff Klein, do you got anything on the cargo apron? We're turning dirt up there.
Yeah, they're moving dirt. I mean, I guess with all the wet weather recently, it has been a struggle, but they are starting to make some progress on that. The other thing that they have started on is yesterday they started on the installation of the water main and sanitary sewers on the north side of the site. And I just want to say that FedEx has been very cooperative during the water main connection, just due to the interruptions to their water service. So that's much appreciated. The one challenge that we have right now is Industrial Builders is constructing the underground storage tank for the glycol runoff, and to do that, they need to put up a 100-foot crane, and it just so happens the crane is in close proximity to the end of the runway. And we had submitted an airspace for the crane back in early to mid-May, and got an airspace determination back from the FAA last week, and there was just a long list of NOTAMs that the airport needs to put in place, and some special NOTAMs called FDC NOTAMs, and it's just been a challenge for the FAA to get all that information loaded up into their system. And so Darren and I have been in close contact with the ADO office in Bismarck to try to make that happen. And so far, we haven't been able to get them to move on it. And until they do, industrial builders can't, put up the crane and start construction. So we continue to work on it, and hopefully we can get that taken care of today. So,
Sean, can you help him with that?
Well, yeah, they have been. They kept me in the loop. I thought we were changing it to a visual flight rule runway, a VFR runway, Jeff. And that didn't seem to solve the problem.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I had posed a question to the FAA on Friday afternoon of last week, and then followed up with them yesterday to see where they're at with it, and haven't really gotten any response from them. So
We'll
That's
get
their
more.
job. I mean,
Yeah.
that's unexcusable for them to hold up construction. Their job is to make the NOTAMs, and their job is to get it going. So just keep pressing on and remind them who works for who.
We'll do. All the footings are in for the UPS building up there, so you should see some tilt-up concrete going up there fairly soon. I think they're ahead of schedule as well on that. John, did you have anything to add on the car rental lot? I think members can, if you drive by, you can walk out there and see that they're getting ready. When do you think they'll start paving, John?
Oh, I think we're going to see paving probably in 10 to 14 days. This week, they just got finished pumping out all the rainwater from last week, and they're going to start shaping the dirt. If it's dry enough today, if not today, then tomorrow for sure. All of the storm sewer is in. That was kind of a grind, especially with hitting the gas line, but that's all back on track now and going really well. And then also the temporary rental lot. We had a couple of sign shifts right away in the beginning, but that seems to be going really well now. And our engineer on site has been checking with the counters to make sure everything's going well. And one of them commented that they'd like to continue this configuration forever. So I guess that's a pretty good endorsement of how things are going. So.
Been some debates between Enterprise and Hertz on who wants to be where in the lot, and they said all we're doing is reconstructing the lot, and where you were before is where you're going to be when the lot is done. And I was in those disagreements yesterday, but that's the way it goes. So nobody wants to be by the fence. Well, Enterprise came to the party last year, so they got the last spots that were available when they came on the property some years ago. And if it was Hertz and they wanted to do the same thing. So anyway, Bernie Ness has been trying to mitigate that, and I had a couple conversations yesterday. Just a couple other small projects that we're still doing. So this is our main entrance into the airfield right over here at the west gate. So a bunch of this concrete here is basically failed, and it started to heave. So we signed a contract with Northern to replace that. It was $20-some thousand for them to knock out that concrete and replace it. It could have been, or should have been done in conjunction with the reconstruction of all of this that we did last year with the Dakota Drive project. So that will be underway. Do you know when they're going to start, Darren, on that?
With the parking lot project.
So sometime in that time frame.
It'll only take a few days.
Last year, we signed a contract with Dakota Underground. There was 2 separate projects. The grass area is down here. Because of drainage and some other issues that we're having with snow removal, they were able to finish the first grass area here, so this is all concrete now. This one here, they didn't get done last fall because it got too wet, so that is still pending with Dakota Underground. Then we had another concrete failure down here by the former Vic's Aircraft Sales, and Henry's been getting bids to replace some failed concrete down right in front of the hangar over here. Joel Nykel is going to lease this hangar, and you can't really taxi an aircraft across it. We can Band-Aid approach it right now, but we've got one bid so far, and I think Henry's tried 3 others. One guy was going to give the bid, then they got the school project in Moorhead, so they backed out. He's still waiting for one more bid. Otherwise, probably Dakota Underground or I forget the name of the other contractor, will come in here and tear this out and go, it's probably a $25,000-$30,000 project to get that concrete, but it's a safety issue, so we're gonna get that done. So we've got 3 little projects in amongst the big projects that we're doing, but things are moving forward. Let's see, UPS added a Sunday 767 here, 3 weeks ago, Darren? Moved it out of Sioux Falls and brought it here, so we love that. So that'll be here. It comes in, unloads a bunch of cargo, takes off for, I don't know where they go, California or Phoenix when they're leaving. So that adds to our landed weight to have Sunday service now with UPS. And the final thing that I have is, and I don't know if this went out to the board members, but in conjunction with the police department, we're gonna have an active shooter exercise here tomorrow. Right, it's tomorrow at 9:15. So the police department's already put out a big news release to the media. There will be people in the terminal building, but all of the tenants and stuff will be involved in that active shooter drill. It'll probably take about 30 minutes from start to finish. There'll be signage out in front. There'll be people out in front. If you want to go into the terminal or not, here's what's going on. There'll be a lot of police activity here tomorrow for 30, 45 minutes or something tomorrow. So it's part of what we do with the TSA and others, and it's another drill for the police department as well. So
The scenario only lasts like 5 minutes, but they're actually gonna shoot a gun inside the building, so everybody in here knows what it sounds like.
yeah. So
Good.
anyway, that's all
Thank
that I
you.
have.
Mike?
I've got one thing under security that, I went to the city commission meeting last night. Commissioner Strand is here. I thought maybe, also I talked to city attorney Eric, and I see you're still on, Eric, but we just talked about the mask issue and the recommendations that the city had. And I talked to Eric afterwards about the fact that we own land that we have leased out to the park, city parks, and who controls that. And Eric and I, in our discussion, just said, Eric reminded me that, you know, the recommendations that I believe you proposed and were approved last night was directly under city control, so not the park service, not ourselves. So I just want to cover that. Eric, do you have anything to add to that?
No, absolutely correct, General. Yeah, it's just to say it a little more completely, the motion that was approved was to start an initiative where the city-owned buildings would sort of be require masks for entry. City administration is going to kind of work out the details of that, but that pertains to city of Fargo owned and occupied buildings, and obviously that's not airport property and that's not park district property, which are separate. So the soccer fields are obviously airport owned and leased by the park district, as I understand it, so it doesn't apply at all to them.
Thank you. 'Cause I did have a concerned citizen come up to me afterwards and was wondering, does this mean I'm gonna have to wear a mask going into the airport? And I said, no, this is.
Well,
No.
United Airlines requires their passengers to have a mask on when they're in the ticket counter area all the way through the process. The only exception is if they're consuming a beverage or food, as long as they're 6 feet apart from someone else. I don't know that American and Delta, Allegiant, or Frontier are there yet, but they're getting close. So as soon as you come into the terminal and stand in their queue, you have to mask
That's
on.
exactly what I told this
Citizen.
woman last night too, was I said, look, we rent space and they control it. They control who gets on their airplanes. We do the same with car rentals. So we have lots of guidance, and then TSA and Homeland Security will also give us guidance. So
Yeah, we highly encourage it. And like I say, we've got 30, 40,000 masks that FEMA sent us that don't necessarily fit everyone, but we have masks to hand out if people so choose to have one.
Good.
So, but
Thank you. Any other comments? I want to first thank all of you, Mike, Rick, John, and Eric. I know this is a volunteer position, and I don't think people really realize just how important what your decisions are, and how I respect your opinions, and I think everybody does. So I want to thank you guys publicly. I think sometimes we forget about that. And Eric and Stacy, even though I came down hard on you, I really appreciate the movement. I just think it's kind of frustrating, and so I appreciate all the work you guys are doing as well, so. And
Tammy, I just have a couple things before
Okay.
you adjourn. And thank you for that. I think Eric and I share in the same frustration because we think we get there and then it's 180 degrees. So that's why I thought, let's just get
Yep.
in there administratively with the person that is gonna run that program. So we'll get something set up with Mary Jo. My only two other sort of housekeeping things are an update on the potential Mavic purchase of that property that sits adjacent to their property. And I talked with Patsy last week, and at first they weren't comfortable making an offer. And then she called back and said they will come in with an offer. And talking with Sean about that, I am going to reach out to Rose Hefts and see what it would cost. Because I frankly was sort of shocked at the appraisals that came in on the flood mitigation project. So that if it is cost-worthy, that we'll bring it to the board to see if you do want the property appraised before you engage in any potential sale. So that's what I have there. And this is a cleanup matter. Nancy and I worked out the property description for the deferral, the special assessment deferral area, which includes the BN 16C as well as improvement project 5130, which were all contained in the same area. The recorder's office rejected it, not sure why. So Dan Eberhardt reached out to the recorder's office and said, hey, how can we fix this so what we give you is recordable? And the city provided the drawings, and I've reached out to Gary Ness at Mead and Hunt, and he will do that work for us, and hopefully we can get this recorded here in the next week or so.
Basically have to
That's all I
create a legal description for the improvement district. It's just this oblong, anyway, that's what they're gonna require at the county to record it.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. Any other business to come before the airport? Okay, meeting adjourned.